Hello, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Welcome to our Pieta Storytime for children of all ages. Today, we're going to read a story out of Princes of Heaven, and our story today is about Joan, and that's the name of her story, Joan. And I want you to know that anyone can be a princess. You can be a princess, you can be a saint. And many of these young women who started out just regular girls ended up being princesses of heaven because they were good girls and listened listened to their elders, they were respectful, and they followed God's God's words to them because God can speak to you. God speaks to you in your heart, and you know when things are right, you know when they're bad. So, let me turn my music off. Alexa, off. We don't own that music. That music belongs to the artist. But, but Miss Helen, that's myself. I like to listen to the music when I'm getting ready to read a story or pray. I like to listen to that music because it's praying in music, praying and singing. So let's start reading this book. Now, this book I wanted to say is by Fabiola Garza, and I think her illustrations. Who is? I want to tell you the illustrations because I love the illustration. That means the okay. So Fabiola, she's the illustrator and wrote the stories. How awesome is that, Fabiola? You did a great job. Look at that beautiful cover of that book. And it has several stories, and we're going to read as many of these stories as we can. And look for other readers from our Pieta group. They will also be reading. And if you wanted to read a book, you can read a book. If there's a favorite Christmas story with maybe a little bit about Jesus or Mary or the saints, we would love for you to read it and we can put it on our page, okay? And that's for children of all ages. So I'm going to tell you about Joan, Joan of Arc, brave and true. She wears a heavenly crown of wildflowers. Now, she lived in a little village in France a long ago. Joan loved the King of Heaven and her country. There was nothing she enjoyed more than just running free after a long day's work. And there's Joan right there. That's after she cut her hair. But there she is, running free in the field after a long day of work. One summer day, as she prayed in her father's garden, she was surprised by a shimmering light, and three figures appeared to her. One was St. Catherine, St. Michael, and St. Margaret. Do not be afraid, said St. Michael. We have a special message for you. God wants you to fight for France and finally end the terrible war that has lasted a century. A century's 100 years. But I'm only a peasant maid, cried Joan. What can I do? I can't even read. Why would anyone listen to me? Because you are a princess of heaven, the saints reassured her. God will be your guide and shield. And there is Saint Joan and the saints that are talking to her and giving her that message from God. Joan traveled all the way to the royal fortress of Chinon to ask Charles, the king to be, for help. The Lord has sent me to bring peace and make you king of France, she told him. Give me knights, armor, and a banner, and God will give you victory. Could a peasant girl lead men into battle? It was just too much for Charles to believe. But a sign from heaven changed his mind. And so he said, Go forth, young maid. I believe you. I believe you are the answer to all our prayers. And there she is, talking to him. Now, you can understand why it was hard. It was hard for Charles, who was soon to be king, to believe that this peasant girl who couldn't even read. So Joan led her band of knights into battle from dawn to dusk. And even when she was hit by an arrow, she rested, but just for a while. Then she got back on her horse and shouted, "For God, for France!" Her soldiers were about to give up, but when they saw Joan riding by, they were filled with hope and reclaimed the city of Orleans. And there she is, even hurt by an arrow, and leading the knights and the soldiers. And because they saw how brave she was, they too got back into the war. So Joan, the peasant maid who could not read, said yes to God's call. Her courage gave France victory and peace. And there is Joan riding in town after her victory. They won the war. It was a nasty war, a battle, but you see, she listened to that message. And sometimes God can send you a message too, and you have to listen to him. Now we have several other stories, and I'm going to read you more, but we're going to leave you with this story, as short as it was, to let you know about Joan, Princess of Heaven, Saint Joan of Arc. And God chooses who he will. He could have picked some big strong soldier, but he picked a meek peasant girl, a girl who loved to play. So listen, maybe one day God will give you a special message, because it's not about who you are, it's about who God chooses. All right, so all of you have a wonderful, blessed day, and I'll be back with you soon with more stories. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.